I'm Angela Martinez. Welcome to That's Clever. Many crafters are bit by the crafting bug during childhood, like this artist from Elk Mills, Maryland. She uses embroidery and 3D paint to make a plaything that really knows how to strut her stuff.
Hi, I'm Jessica Kaninsky from Elk Mills, Maryland. I lead a casual life out here in the country, but I insist my girls are always dressed to impress. There's Marianne, there's Carlin, Melinda, and Kelly, and Victoria, and Margaret, and Erica. Today I'm making Sophie, my vintage Flair doll. I've turned my dining room into a studio and I'm going inside. I'm going to start my vintage Flair doll by using a pattern that I made. I'm laying my pattern down on muslin fabric. I'm going to pin it to it. I like to use muslin because I think it works really well with cloth dolls. I'm going to cut it out. My trusty fabric scissors. I cut 2 layers for the front and the back of the doll. I'm going to take the pattern off and then pin the 2 sides together and sew it. I made my kitty pin cushion. Meow. Now I'm going to sew Sophie's body together. I've always loved dolls. My first word as a child was doll. I've just always been really girly. Now I will take the pins out and clip my edges. I clip the edges to take the bulk out of the fabric around the curves and edges. Once I've finished clipping my edges, I'll turn her inside out. Here's the fancy tool I use to turn her inside out. A paintbrush. Now I'm going to stuff her with polyfiber fill. First I'm going to stuff her head, then I'm going to support her neck with a craft stick. Because I'm going to embroider Sophie's face, I'm going to need the head to be nice and firm. I'm only going to stuff the arms halfway up so they can bend. I finished stuffing Sophie. Her head is nice and firm. Her arms are stuffed up just far enough so that they can bend, and now I'm ready to embroider her face. I load up the needle with 2 strands of embroidery floss. I just kind of start sewing and let her face appear. Since Sophie is a very elegant doll, she's going to have nice red lips. First I tried painting faces on my dolls, but it didn't give me that dimension I wanted. I'm going to give her some hair. I'm going to paint her hair with dimensional fabric paint. When I was coming up with a concept for my dolls, I wanted something with a modern look, but I still wanted them to look sort of antique-y. I just started playing around until I came up with this sort of pin curly look. Her pin curls come straight out of the bottle. I love to use dimensional paint for my dolls' shoes and hair. It gives them a lot of character and depth. I've let Sophie's hair dry for a few hours. I've given her some legs with green gingham homespun fabric, and I've painted on some saucy black pumps. And now I'm going to make her some clothes. I'm going to make Sophie's top out of a vintage napkin. This is a linen napkin with a nice blue embroidered edge. I'm going to start with a template that I created. I'm going to place it on my napkin and strategically place the sleeve on the corner of the napkin so I get that nice blue edge. Once I cut it out, I sew it up. I don't use coordinating thread because I like the contrast. Now I'm going to turn the blouse inside out. I have to handle this blouse very carefully because the old linen frays very easily. This is an old pillowcase that I found at my favorite antique shop. It's so beautiful. It's embroidered with gold thread. I'm going to have a really hard time cutting into it, but I think Sophie deserves it. I'm going to pin in really tiny pleats. Once I finish pinning my pleats, I'll sew it together so they stay put. Now I have my finished skirt, and the ruffle that I left on from the pillowcase looks like a petticoat. And now it's time to get Sophie dressed. This is where the flexible arms come in handy. This is my favorite part, putting her skirt on. Now I'm going to accessorize. I'm using this pretty grosgrain ribbon to give her a belt. I'm going to use this black leather string to give her a choker. I think the choker gives her a nice vintage look. All of my girls wear corsage. Sophie is going to wear this vintage antique pinwheel. I finished sewing on her corsage. Now my vintage flare doll is done, and Sophie is ready to go out on the town.
Up next, Jessica returns to Elk Mills, Maryland with a new project. She's making beaks and tails out of a pillow that'll have you doing a double take. Jessica's back with a new project in her Elk Mills, Maryland studio. She throws caution to the wind when she teaches an old shirt some new tricks.
I make a lot of things out of vintage fabric, including this really cute bird and this even cuter bird. I found this great shirt at a thrift store. I love it. I sure wouldn't wear it in a million years, but I'll make a bird pillow out of it. I'm cutting it open so it'll lay like a flat piece of fabric. For the back of my pillow, I picked out this really cool houndstooth-ish fabric. I loved how the green in the mod fabric was reflected in the houndstooth-ish fabric. I'm laying the fabrics right sides together, and then I'm going to cut out my bird template. Now I'm going to pin the fabric together and sew it up. There's a lot of pinning and unpinning going on here. Now I'm going to sew it together. I leave a space about 4 inches wide for the stuffing. Now I'm going to clip the edges. Now I'm going to turn my birdie inside out and make sure I get his beak all the way out. Now it's time to stuff my pillow. I'm using polyfiberfill stuffing. I'm just using a little stuffing at a time to get into the beak. I collect all kinds of antique fabrics, from antique lace to napkins to 60s and 70s thrift store shirts. I don't like my pillows to be too stiff because I want them to be comfortable for your head. My bird pillow is almost done. I just need to sew up the opening. My bird pillow is all done.
We find talented artists and their awesome projects everywhere we look. You've just seen 3.